Nunca imaginé que una como tú existe. No había visto algún flor de ese tipo. Ojos azules nunca me fascinaban. Tuyos me atrajeron. Soy una polilla, la llama. Yo te vi y escapé de mi cuerpo. Yo te vi y me perdí en tu cuerpo. Tu cuerpo. Me confundiste con la camisa que llevabas tú. Tú me atrapaste, no me sueltes, quiero quedar aquí. Esa piel pecosa, nunca me lo olvidaré. Como unas mariposas, tus pestañas vuelan para mí. Yo te vi y escapé de mi cuerpo. Yo te vi y me perdí en tu cuerpo. Tu cuerpo. Solo quiero que me mires con esos ojos tuyos. Solo quiero que me mires con esos ojos tuyos. Estoy obsesionada, de repente despierta con este deseo. Solo quiero que me mires con esos ojos tuyos. Cuerpo.
Hello. Welcome back to part 2 of Vegans Mess with the Bowl, Get the Horns. I wonder if we have any of my regular subscribers here. Is it just vegan misanthropes. Not sure. Okay, let's get started. Okay, we're back here with Carson from the Reasonable Vegan channel, and his vegan guest. I see Dogi-chan is here. Hello, and Let's Go Carney is here. Welcome. Is the sound okay? I want to make sure that the sound is okay before we move forward. AV, welcome. Hold on just a second. I've got a phone call coming in. Sound is good. Okay, good. Let me go back to presenting this. Okay, so this is their attempted debunking of actually, they had been promoting things like cactus leather above regular leather. The problem is that cactus leather is predominantly polyurethane, which I proved in part 1. What you're going to find is all of these vegan leathers, so-called vegan leathers, are going to be polyurethane impregnated with some type of vegetable fiber in order to like take some cactus, process it. I'm not sure, dry it out, etc. Remove the water, I'm sure, so that it's just the cellulose fibers, and then bathe it in. Hold on, just a second.
Hey, Diddy.
Hey, Jason, I'm live right now. What's up?
I can try. I'm at work. The only thing is I'll log out if they call me.
That's fine.
I'll do it on my phone.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. I'll go find a private spot and I'll log on.
Okay. As soon as you do, I'll bring you in.
Okay.
Okay. So Jason from the Jason John Swartz channel is going to join me today. He's at work, respiratory therapist at a hospital, ex-vegan. And I thought he would be a good guest to bring on today, kind of bounce some of this off of him, in addition to you guys. See, we've got a few people in here right now. Hopefully by the time Jason gets here, I think there's a little bit of, there we go. There was a little bit of a hum going on with the audio, and I think that's out. Tanuzo Nickel Fritz says, what do you think about Sevrage? I've got mixed thoughts about him. I think he makes some good points. I think that he's got some things really wrong. Like I think I've heard him say that human beings aren't supposed to drink water. There's not a mammal alive that's not supposed to drink water. If you look into persistence hunting, where human beings, it's the oldest form of coordinated team hunting that's ever existed. You're going to be running for hours and hours. The idea that you wouldn't drink water, only blood, I think is ridiculous. Jason, I'm posting the link. Tanuzo Nickelfrit says that Savridge says that blood is ideal over water, and I think that comes from A. Jones Vanderplants. Yeah, Vanderplants didn't have everything right, although he had a lot right. I'll give him that for sure. But no, I don't think that every time that we would require some external H2O that we would have to go and harvest some blood. There's not a mammal on Earth that doesn't drink water. So that's a pretty extraordinary claim. And with extraordinary claims comes an extraordinary responsibility to back up those claims. I don't think that that's actually helpful advice to tell people not to drink water. However, on the other hand, on the other side of that coin of not ideal information is the idea that you should drink water when you're not thirsty. That would tend to dilute your electrolytes, which has a long list of harmful effects. Hey, Jason, are you there?
Hey, good. I'm just trying to mute this on my phone so there's no feedback. Give me a sec. Yeah, you hear me without any feedback?
No feedback.
Okay, good. All right, first time trying to stream on my phone.
Did you watch part 1 of
Yeah.
Mess with the Bull, Get the Horns?
Yeah, I saw your part 1.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember the key points that they made.
Well, they were promoting polyurethane under the
yes. Okay. Yeah, I remember
under the heading of things like cactus leather.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that you're never going to make leather out of vegetables. You're never going to make leather out of anything made out of cellulose. And so what they do, these companies, what they do is they're primarily polyurethane companies. And so they'll take cactus fiber and basically they'll take polyurethane and put a little cactus fiber in it and then tell everyone that they've created this new leather made of cactus. And it's really polyurethane with a little bit of cactus fibers worked in.
It's kind of like the margarine that they'll look at margarine. You'll see it's like green. It says olive oil, but it's probably just like a pinch of olive oil just so that they can make it green and write olive oil on it. Same principle.
Same principle,
drop a speck of something and then it's like, oh, it's cactus.
Right, which I think that this this practice actually kind of epitomizes veganism, which is everything's kind of a lie. You know, everything is on its face. Veganism is about animals, but when you really look into it, veganism has nothing to do with reducing animal suffering and death. It's really about harming humans and removing nutritious foods from the food supply for human beings. And then also pseudo-intellectualism. Lots of vegans are pseudo-intellectuals. They'll sit there and suck on their vape machines as they pretend that they're some type of wise old man. And there's no wisdom there whatsoever. It's about their ego. These people are narcissists, and they're very egotistical. And it's not all vegans. In fact, what is it? Around 90% of all vegans will abandon veganism within the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And so the majority, the vast majority of vegans themselves are actually good people who probably care about animals. And because of the nutritional deficiencies, they feel terrible and they feel sick. They begin to suffer, which vegans, pretend to care about suffering unless it's someone who's eating a plant-based diet suffering from the nutritional deficiencies that come about from a plant-based diet.
Yeah. Then the community of vegans, what they'll do when you start feeling sick is then they'll start with the whole you're detoxing all of these animal products that you've been eating all of your life, and during the detox you'll have symptoms, you'll feel worse, and they'll just keep on telling you to juice fast and to heal yourself, and with these fasts I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, when their teeth start falling out, they'll actually claim that you have to detox your teeth, and then they'll go to the dentist and they'll get some maybe some implants or something, and then they'll go back on the internet and pretend that they're all healthy, and they we're supposed to have you have to basically the vegan detox process ultimately means you get rid of all your teeth and you replace them with titanium posts with little whatever plastic teeth or anything, whatever they use there. It's the whole thing is in my opinion it's complete mental illness is what it is. It's mental and physical illness. And I had, you see Carson there on the right on the screen. He's very cordial to speak to. He's been very polite as far as when he's interacting with me. But I have asked him some really hard questions, and he's ignored those questions. And I think that when someone invites you on their channel, this guy's got like 218 subscribers. I invited him on the channel. I wanted to promote him if he was going to be an actual reasonable vegan. But he's ignored my questions. And I have written some lengthy, very well thought out, very heartfelt statements and questions that I wanted to have some interaction with him just in the comments section. I didn't want to come on, have to make videos where it seems like I'm attacking him. And I'm not attacking him. I'm attacking his message. But I do need to at least voice my opinion in that, to Carson, when I ask you a question, after I have you on my channel, and I'm not a large channel. I'm a tiny channel myself. However, compared to me, he's tiny.
Yeah.
And so I brought him in good faith onto my channel, wanting to have some honest conversation and expecting some honest follow-up. And when I ask him questions, he's been ignoring my questions. And I think ignoring people, like if you were to contact me, Jason, and
Yeah.
ask me some questions, and I was to just ignore you,
Yeah.
wouldn't you find yourself offended if I was just to ignore you again and again and again?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. So it's not
100%.
that is not reasonable, and it's not polite.
No.
And so I've had to resort to doing these types of expose videos to show the public where Carson and his vegan guest here have gone way wrong, and their perspective on this whole thing is very skewed, and I think it's harmful to the animals and it's harmful to people. So we're gonna take off here from where we left off last time, and we're going to get into his guest is going to be talking about the environmental harm that's being done by the leather industry. So if you know anything about leather, tanning leather, tanning leather refers to the tannins in plants. Tannins are a type of anti-nutrient, but they're found in high quantities in certain tree barks, and they used to use animal fats and tree bark to tan leather, and they still do, but it's probably about, say, 5% of the leather that's being produced today. And about 95% of the leather that's being produced is actually
give me a sec. Do you guys need me to? I'm on a phone call, but I'm seeing a lot of activity on it. Do you guys need me, or? All right. Hey, Didi, I'll pop back on soon. My boss is around and everyone is working, so I'm like, okay, this looks bad. So I'm just gonna go do some work. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Hope to see you soon.
I'll try and pop on if you're still on during the drive home.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye. Okay. Yep. He's a respiratory therapist at a hospital. He was trying to take some time off to join us on this, but he's got to go to work. And so we'll go to work. And here we go.
I mean, the other thing that he didn't mention in his video, and this is another one of those things that I've known for some time, because this stuff comes up on Twitter every couple of months or so. I see like a new wave of like, oh, you vegans and your plastic leather. So,
well, the reason that you keep hearing that people are criticizing vegans and their plastic leather is because that is the only type of leather that vegans can use, is petroleum-based leather. And there are companies out there who are claiming that their leather, their non-animal sourced leather, is sustainable, and they're claiming that it's based on, some vegetable product, some plant-based product. But when you really look into it, you find out that it's actually polyurethane that's been impregnated with some cellulose fibers from some plant. That is not it's not environmentally sound. None of these products are recyclable, and they rely upon the petroleum industry. Petroleum is not at the rate that vegans want to use it. Petroleum is not a sustainable resource. And so if you look carefully at all the different facets promoted by veganism, they're all reliant upon petroleum in some form or fashion, versus, let's say, a rotational ruminant grazing operations. We don't require petroleum. These animals, cows, goats, sheep, they are self-propelled. We can move them around like shepherds and place them in the areas where the vegetation will benefit from their grazing practices. And so when you replace the natural order of things with petroleum, which is what veganism does, then you set yourself up for failure, because all of these resources are finite that veganism relies upon, whether it's petroleum, whether it's the nitrogen, the synthetic nitrogen that's used as fertilizer for their crops, or even the mined phosphorus and the mined potassium. If you're not schooled on mined potassium and mined phosphorus, just look that up on the internet. Mined potassium, environmental harm; mined phosphorus, environmental harm, and you'll see that just the fertilizers that are required to produce the crops that are on the vegan menu are not only a finite resource or a dead-end street, but they're hugely harmful to the environment and kill gargantuan amounts of animals that are not even tallied. The number is so high that they don't even bother counting them.
I kind of looked into some of this before, and the process to make leather, I don't know so much about wool and fur, but I know that the process of making leather is very toxic. It is extreme amounts of pollution.
Okay, he says the process of making leather is very toxic. Originally, the reason they call it tanning leather is because they would use tannins from plants along with animal fats to preserve the hide of the animal, create leather. And there's a growing number of companies, leather companies, who are moving back to the old organic, sustainable method of leather production. But I will give him this, that the majority, at least for many years now, has required a more environmentally damaging, non-sustainable method of leather production. However, here's the difference, is that I do not want to abolish crop agriculture. I want to encourage and push the crop farmers and crop agriculture towards a regenerative, sustainable, environmentally friendly, the Gabe Brown approach. Look into Gabe Brown, a farmer who has married animal agriculture and crop agriculture, which really mimics nature, because that's how nature works. Nature, the plants benefit from the animals and the animals benefit from the plants. And when you remove one or the other from that equation, then it's not a sustainable situation. Never will be. And so you've got a growing number of leather companies that are actually reverting back to the old organic, sustainable methods. And in fact, let me see if I can pull some of this up. Yeah, so we actually have something called the Sustainable Leather Foundation. And so there's many companies right now. These are some of the companies right here that you could look up that are going back to a more sustainable, depends. I'll have to look at each one of these companies, but there's a whole bunch of them. Any one of these companies would be more environmentally friendly and more sustainable than any of your plant-based so-called leather companies. All of those companies are using petroleum in the product. So you've not only got the harm that's done to animals via the actual oil and gas extraction process. You know, these giant oil spills that are destroying the oceans, the environmental damage that's done on dry land because of petroleum extraction. And I'm not totally against petroleum extraction, but the problem is that vegans keep prancing around in their high heels and skirts and their huge egos, talking about how their diet, their lifestyle is not harmful to animals. And that is a huge lie. And to tell you the truth, I have been approached by countless ex-vegans who have said, thank you for showing me the hypocrisy. Thank you for showing me that veganism is not doing anything from the animals, for the animals. I am so glad not to be part of that misanthropic, egotistical cult anymore. So it's not necessary that leather is produced by the most harmful method. There are a growing number of companies that are producing leather, moving back to the old, organic, sustainable, biodegradable method. And so while I can point at many, many companies doing that, the vegans will point to one or two companies that they will claim is creating some type of plant-based leather. But then when you look into it, you see that it's polyurethane that's been impregnated with some cellulose from some plant. And polyurethane, look into that. Polyurethane is one of the most environmentally destructive products that's being produced from petroleum. And that's the vegan leather for you. It's really shameful that the vegans continue to pretend that their plant-based leathers are not made primarily of polyurethane. And they should be ashamed of themselves, because they're supposed to be about the two things that they pride themselves on is being beneficial for the animals and being beneficial for the environment. When it comes to plant-based leather, they're neither. They're harmful to the animals and they're harmful to the environment.
Poisoning the water, poisoning the land.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this production takes place in developing countries. I mean, Pakistan, India, countries like that, where there are very few safeguards in place. And there's a lot of people who get poisoned by the chemicals that are, tanning leather has always.
So he's talking about people getting poisoned by the tanning of the leather process. This is where this is a perfect opportunity for us to examine the inconsistencies in the vegan philosophy. So I'm going to pull up something for you right quick. Pesticide exposure causes farm workers to suffer more chemical-related injuries and illnesses than any other workforce nationwide. And that would include leather. Short-term effects include stinging eyes, rashes, blisters, blindness, nausea, dizziness, headache, coma, and even death, as well as cancers. So here, I'm going to bring Jason back on. Hey, Jason.
Hello. Let's see how long
Everything
I
all
lasted.
right?
Yeah. I just
Good.
had to do
Did the
something.
patient live? Good.
No, I was just switching around ventilators. There was a a shooter in the area, so they call like possible mass traumas. But it's fine. They caught the shooter, so
Okay.
us Canadians always trying to be like you Americans.
I
We
know
have
you
shooters
guys.
too. We're not boring over here. Just like you.
Let me show you what I was showing the audience here real quick.
Yeah.
Making leather is very toxic.
So he's talking about the process of making leather is very toxic. What he's not telling people is that there's not just one way of making leather. The mass production of leather, just like a lot of things, the concentrated feedlots, that process needs to be reformed. It needs to go back to the regenerative rotational grazing, finishing on grass, finishing on natural forages. Same thing with the crop agriculture. The crop agriculture needs to go back to using, this would be one of the solutions to the artificial intelligence displacement of labor. There's several different professions right now that are being threatened by AI, but there's not been any development, and there probably will never be a way to develop an AI that can go in and selectively remove the weeds around different crop plants without using poisons. When I was 12 years old, my first paying job was something called chopping cotton. And you're not out there chopping cotton, you're out there chopping the weeds around the cotton plant. So this was before Monsanto and Bayer were spraying all of these toxic chemicals on the cotton, which is what we have today. This was back when everything was done. And I was out in West Texas, which is one of the cotton belts of America. It's one of the cotton belts of the world. So I was surrounded by cotton fields. Lots of farmers out there were looking to hire people to go out there with a hoe and chop the weeds down around the plant. Well, now you don't see people out there chopping the weeds around the plant because they just fly over with airplanes, or they have these giant diesel powered machines that spray these deadly poisons on the plants, and the cotton has been genetically modified to be resistant against the poisons. And so you end up poisoning the soil, destroying the soil life, poisoning the water because it gets into the water supply, poisoning the water supply. So, this would actually be, if vegans would stop trying to abolish animal agriculture and stop trying to justify the petrochemicals used in crop agriculture and justify the deadly poisons and pesticides that their menu relies upon. And if we could both get on the same page, if they would actually be reasonable instead of using that word as a catchphrase or a shtick, then we could actually, we could negotiate, we could debate honestly with vegans, because vegans do not debate honestly. No. And what we should be doing is, if the vegans were an honest cult, then they would be coming to the table and wanting to reform not only their own, or not only animal agriculture and things like leather production, but they would be looking to reform the crop agriculture that their menu depends upon. But they don't. That's not what they're about. They're about abolishing everything animal.
Yeah. I have a leather belt that's probably, it was my father's. I'm 43, so it's probably 70 years old, and it's still fine. Then you buy all these new belts, that are there's plies of them, and then they just start,
coming apart.
They used to make stuff that lasted.
Well, that is, I was watching a video on leather production earlier, and that that actually translates to the fact that the factory that produced that leather was not following all of the ideal protocols. And so the leather begins to degrade. They're using binders that would, rather than having one layer of leather, you've got multiple layers of leather. So there's a spectrum of quality in the leather industry, just like there is with bananas, just like there is with strawberries, and just like there is with beef. And so there's with pretty much every industry right now, the medical industry, the crop industry, the meat industry, every industry that you can think of has got a spectrum of corporations, and some of them are doing things in a sustainable, environmentally friendly way, and others are doing things in a non-sustainable, environmentally destructive way, which is harming animals, it's harming humans. And we've got that from, it happens with the carnivore community. Some of the things that they're supporting is harmful. And with the vegans, in fact, most of what the vegans are supporting is harmful to animals and harmful to the environment.
Yeah.
So it really boils down to the fact that what we should be doing is we should be coming to the table looking to reform these industries, both vegan and non-vegan. But instead, the vegans are looking to do one thing, and that's to abolish everything animal. They don't care about the dark side of everything to do with veganism. And we're going to see some more about that and a little bit later in this live stream here. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. We're going to listen to a little bit more of these vegans.
It is extreme amounts of pollution, poisoning the water, poisoning the land, and a lot of this.
So he's talking about all of a sudden, this guy actually, I think he confessed several times during this during this conversation with Carson that he is first and foremost a proponent for the animals and secondarily an environmentalist. In other words, the environmentalism is not a big thing for him, but whenever it comes to leather, it's all of a sudden it's a big thing, right?
About the environment here.
Right. So I've got some things lined up here to show I don't want to use the word hypocrisy. I think it's more ignorance.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's ignorant, but then once it's brought to their attention, then it's willing ignorance.
So we know that the mainstream vegan menu relies upon pesticides. And Carson's guest here was talking about how leather is polluting the water. And here we've got the pesticides required to produce the items on the vegan menu. Pesticides can reach water-bearing aquifers below ground from applications onto crop fields, seepage of contaminated surface water, accidental spills and leaks, improper disposal, and even through injection waste materials into wells. And so crop agriculture is probably number one. I mean, I think that the leather production is really way down on the list, whereas the pesticides required to produce the items on the vegan menu are probably number one when it comes to contaminating drinking water.
Yeah.
Drinking water and freshwater streams, freshwater lakes, and also a major contributor to the oceanic dead zones. So, you will not find vegans criticizing the pesticides. You will not find vegans standing in front of farm equipment saying, no, we're not going to allow you to spray these harmful pesticides that are killing animals and humans and destroying the environment, you won't see that. And the reason you won't see that is because veganism is not about that. Veganism is about ego, and veganism is about misanthropes. It's about how do you say it? Misanthropism. It's not about the animals. That thing, that claim that it's about the animals, that is a cover. That is a charade.
It's
a
a bunch of
veneer.
farm animals. A couple of, a handful of the main farm animals, and then the rest can go to hell.
Yeah. Do you think that guy that was just speaking, this guy right here, do you think that you will ever in your life find this guy talking about, making an effort to reform the crop agriculture? Is he going to? Yeah, he's not going to do that. He's not going. You're not going to find this guy dedicating his life to reforming crop agriculture, removing the petrochemicals, removing the pesticides. That's not something that you're going to find this guy doing, because veganism is not about environmentalism and it's not about the animals. Let's continue.
In developing countries, I mean Pakistan, India, countries like that, where there are very few safeguards in place, and there's a lot of people who get poisoned by the chemicals that are. I mean, tanning leather has always been a chemically intensive, environmentally ruinous process, and still is today. And as, of course, demand goes up and that industry gets bigger, the spread of toxic chemicals used in that process has also grown.
So again, he's talking about the spreading of toxic chemicals in the leather manufacturing process. So let's show a little bit more about the pesticides, that he looks the other way whenever that harm is being done. Let's see. So one of the most common pesticides used on fruits, vegetables, grains, roots, tubers, beans, lentils is neonics or neonicotinoids.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that I've been trying repeatedly, and I've failed to get Carson from the Reasonable Vegan channel to acknowledge this, is that whenever I tell him about insecticides, he says, "Oh, well, I don't really care about insects." And so I've tried repeatedly to say, well, it's not just the insects that the insecticides are killing.
Yeah, the birds eat it. It's like it's a food source,
Yeah, the birds not only are eating the poisons, but I think I've got one of my links here will show you that there are lots of birds that rely upon the insects that are targeted by these insecticides as a food source. And so when you kill all these insects that the birds rely upon for food, then these birds starve to death. And starving to death is a very suffering, heavy way to die. Starving to death is very painful. And so vegans, when they're faced with this, they'll look the other way, again, because veganism is not about the animals. It's about, and it can vary. One individual, it might be just about ego. Another individual, it might be about being a misanthrope. And then another vegan, it might be ego and being a misanthrope. But primarily what veganism is a cult that nourishes ego and caters to misanthropic philosophy, which is a hatred of human beings. This is one of the reasons why you'll hear vegans say, well, the only nutrient that plants don't provide is B12. Well, you won't find any vegan that's claiming that actually has any credentials in human nutrition.
Mhm.
These people are willing to play games with people's health because there's
Yeah.
a long list of nutrients, essential nutrients that are not provided by plants.
And they work
And-
synergistically as well. You there's missing completely, but at the same time you need appropriate amounts and appropriate combinations that you find in all the animal food because they don't work alone.
Correct. So here's the American Bird Conservancy is concerned about these pesticides.
I'll
that
let
are
you go,
required-
okay? I'll be back.
Okay. So the American Bird Conservancy is concerned about these pesticides that are required to produce the items that are on the vegan menu. And as they say, lesser amounts of these neonics can emaciate the birds, impair reproduction, and disrupt their migratory pathways. So is this, are they concerned, are vegans concerned about this at all? Have you ever heard a vegan, have you ever witnessed a vegan standing up and saying, we have to reform crop agriculture? Crop agriculture is killing untold amounts of animals. No, what you'll do is you'll run upon vegans if you're able to get them to address this issue. They'll all of a sudden they'll go speciesist on you, and they'll say, "Well, I'm not sure that birds are quite sentient. I'm not sure that amphibians are as sentient. I'm not sure that most mammals are sentient." And so they all of a sudden they start picking and choosing which animals have the right amount of sentience for them to care about. And then they'll say, well, these animals can be categorized in sentience, and the animals that are lower on the sentient scale, according to us, the egotistical vegans, those are the ones that we can kill. We can kill them with absolutely no concern whatsoever, because that's the vegan way. The vegan way is to kill animals based on their own subjective sentient rating. It's very subjective, and it actually exposes veganism as the fraudulent cult that it really is. So let's get back to the original video.
So none of this got mentioned in the video.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he's wrong to say that if we were only talking about the environment, you might be able to say, sure, whether all this stuff is better for the environment. Let's put aside the animal ethics and just look at the environmental impact.
It's going to put aside the animal ethics and just look at the environmental impact of leather. When has this guy ever done that with crop agriculture? I would say he probably hasn't. In fact, what if we were to look up, let's say, go to your YouTube search engine. Hey, Jason.
Hello. Sorry about the popping in and out.
Oh, that's okay. Rewind and show you what he just said.
Okay.
Listen to this.
I don't think he's wrong to say that only talking about the environment. You might be able to say, sure, whether all this stuff is better for the environment. Let's put aside the animal ethics and just look at the.
So he's saying, let's put aside the animal ethics and let's look at just the environmental concerns of leather production.
Environmental impact.
Okay.
There.
So let's look at
JD. Like, I haven't had time to look up what exactly about leather production is so bad? Like the modern methods, not the obviously not the traditional way. The like they're saying it's bad. I don't know the process. What specifically would they say is so horrible about making like leather and stuff like that?
Hold on. Almost there.
Sure.
Okay, so the modern process, and this is not all pervasive. This is the majority right now is using chromium sulfate to preserve the animal skins. And so this is the one of the mass production modern ways that they use to tan leather. And really tanning leather with chromium sulfate, that's really not technically tanning, because tanning leather means that you're using plant tannins to preserve the leather. And so the original tanning process is actually partly vegan, except sometimes they would use animal fats in the process, and other times they would use different seed oils or plant oils, and the process of tanning them, making them supple, and making them to preserve the skins so that they don't rot, because it is, it's animal skin. If you just skin an animal, put that skin in your closet, then that skin will begin to rot pretty quick. And so the tanning of animal skins has always been a process to preserve the skins. But this process of using chromium sulfate is there are some leather tanning operations in some areas where the regulations are less than stellar, where they're actually taking the waste liquids from this process and dumping them straight into the rivers. So they end up contributing to things like fish kills, oceanic dead zones. However, the primary reason that we've got the destruction of the rivers, the aquatic life being killed in the rivers, the oceanic dead zones, the main chemical player in that process is not leather. It's the primarily nitrogen, synthetic nitrogen, that's used on the crops that produce the items on the vegan menu, and that is not debatable. So make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was talking about the environmental harm done by the leather process. The pesticides that are required to produce the items on the vegan menu are made from petroleum. So oil is used to make chlorobenzene, which in turn is used to synthesize DDT. Similarly, many pesticides such as neonicotinoids, which is what we were covering earlier. This is, without neonicotinoids, you've got no veganism. Okay. So veganism basically is a product of the petroleum industry. And so all of these pesticides that the vegans will kind of roll their eyes when you try to get them to face the damage that's being done to the environment and the suffering and death that's being caused to the animals, they'll roll their eyes at these chemicals. However, they are made from gas and oil. So when you make something from gas and oil that benefits veganism, they'll roll their eyes or look the other way. But if you make something from gas and oil that is animal, something to do with animals, well, then that's something that they'll get up on their soapbox. They'll go on a crusade. They'll commit acts of terrorism, anything that they can. Ultimately, what veganism wants to do is remove nutrition from the human diet. And removing by going all plant-based, what you're doing is you're removing a long list of essential nutrients from the human diet. And this is exactly why around 90% of all vegans will abandon the cult within the first 2 years. It's not because of some addiction. It's not because they want to harm animals. It's because they're suffering. These people are suffering from nutritional deficiencies.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, just a question about the neonicotinoid pesticides. So it has to do with nicotine. Like, is this derived nicotine just from a tobacco plant kind of thing?
I don't think it's from a tobacco plant kind of thing. I think that it's more to do with, let's see.
And the neonicotinoids, I know we have nicotinic receptors on our skeletal muscles. So what does the neonicotinic do? Like, how does it kill it? Like, we know the rodenticides are often anticoagulants, so they bleed to death. But do you know the toxic pathway that it uses to kill with the neonicotinoids?
Well, it usually has to do with attacking the nervous system. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so up here at the top, it says a holistic study of neonicotinoids, neuroactive insecticides.
Okay, so it's neuroactive.
Okay, similarly, many pesticides such as neonicotinoids are produced from gas and oil.
Okay.
So they're not, we don't have to actually grow tobacco to produce neonicotinoids. They're being produced from gas and oil, the magic of chemistry.
Yeah. Okay.
So they primarily attack, let's see, they're neurotoxins. So neonicotinoids act by interfering with neurotransmission in the central nervous system. They bind to the neotinic acetylcholine receptors and the postsynaptic neuron, acting as a false neurotransmitter. So they're like a neurotransmitter analog, very similar to vegan B12, which is the cyanocobalamin. It will fit into the B12 receptor site, but it doesn't do the job of actual B12, which is methylcobalamin when it comes to human beings. And so, what makes veganism even an option to people today are these neonicotinoids, which are attacking the neurotransmission in the central nervous systems of humans, the central nervous systems of mammals, fish, amphibians, insects. And, like Carson said, I don't really care about insects. I don't care if you're going to spray my crops with insecticides. I don't care about insects. I don't care. Well, what I haven't been able to get him to address is the fact that those insecticides also affect the neurotransmission in the central nervous system of birds, amphibians, humans, and mammals. And also, there are lots of animals out there, birds, that require or rely upon populations of insects. And whenever you kill all those insects, then you starve all those animals. In fact, I think I can pull that up here real quick. Here we go. Also, pesticides indirectly cause bird mortality. Now, a vegan will say, well, that word indirectly is key because we don't care about the animals that we kill indirectly. This is part of the insanity of veganism is, well, we're targeting the insects. If we're indirectly killing birds, we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care. Vegans don't care about birds dying because of insect deaths. And so we've got lots of birds out there that are insect eating birds. And of course, the vegans are looking at well, if the birds are eating insects, that means they're predators and they deserve to die.
Have you ever heard that?
Insanity.
Did you hear that before? You heard that?
Have I heard that? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. In fact, you've got vegans out there who actually are endorsing the idea that we go out and we kill all of the predatory animals.
Oh, it's true. I've heard of that.
Kill all the lions, kill all the tigers, kill all of the bald eagles, kill all the predator birds. And eagles are predators because they'll go out and kill rabbits. They'll even kill baby goats. And then you've got other predator birds that kill primarily insects. They eat them. And there are birds right now that are starving to death because of insecticides that are being sprayed on the crops that provide the items on the vegan menu. And so those insect eating birds are going out and they're starving because the spraying of the neonicotinoids not only attacks the central nervous system of the birds, but eliminates all of the insects in the area. So those birds will starve to death. And then also,
probably bees also. Like pollinators.
All of the pollinators. The pollinators are being completely wiped out. By the crop agriculture that produces the items on the vegan menu. But vegans don't care about this. What they'll do is when you confront them with this information, they'll say, well, number one, I don't care about insects. And number two, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm a vegan. And this is the deadly game that vegans play. It's deplorable and it's despicable. And so because the central nervous system is attacked, the birds no longer have muscle control. And so their mobility is handicapped. They cannot fly away anymore. And that becomes part of the problem. And because they can't fly, it's nearly impossible to keep them away from a recently treated area. And so you end up poisoning these birds. They can't fly away. All the insects that they would normally be eating are either poisoned, and so they're a source of poison if they eat them, or there's just no insects available. They can't fly because they've been neurologically damaged by these pesticides that are relied upon by the vegan cult. And then they have a choice. They can either starve to death miserably, suffering tremendously, but vegans don't care about this suffering. Because why do they not care about this suffering? The reason they don't care about it is because it's not related to animal agriculture directly. And so, in other words, the vegan priority is to remove meat, fish, dairy from the human nutrition pool. They're looking to actually cause harm to humans. And this is why there's such a very strong misanthropic element to mainstream veganism.
Yeah,
It's shameful.
They're the type that would say like we're a cancer, you know, the typical we're a cancer.
Yeah, it's scary how malicious overall the vegan cult actually is. It's scary.
Yeah.
The vegan cult at its core is malice.
It is.
Okay, back to the
Go ahead.
Vegans. Oh, wrong.
But to act like it's a false choice. There are other alternatives that exist now that are being developed now. And then he's ignoring the costs of the production of his preferred product. So even if it's not as bad, let's say, as all of the other things he mentioned, it's still having a big impact on the environment as well. And I think it might be debatable what's really worse in the long run. But we can set that debate aside. I can give him that for the sake of argument, even though I'm not even sure that's true. But I would even give him that for the sake of. But here's my bigger problem with all of this stuff. And I've been talking for a while, so I don't know if you want to.
No, you're fine. Go for it.
You're fine. Go for it.
Okay, well, my bigger problem was this, and it's the same problem I brought up last time when I was talking about, well, what about the plight of the slaughterhouse workers? And I said, one of the things I said in response to like the whole debate about slaughterhouse workers and how much empathy we should have for them. Like,
so now he's arguing against empathy for slaughterhouse workers. I'm not sure that that's even an issue. I don't see any slaughterhouse workers that are asking for reparations or any type of public empathy. You know, what is he even talking about here? Other than he's trying to demonize anyone that has anything to do with animal agriculture, right?
Which is 99% of the population.
Right.
Like, how much empathy would we have if we were talking about human children going through the slaughterhouse? And again, it's like,
so now he's talking about human children. What if we were talking about human children going to the slaughterhouse?
Well, if he wants to equate human death with animal death, I don't know. Give me a second. Yeah, as if he truly believes that slaughtering an animal is like murder, then they would be freaking out with all the wild animals. Like, imagine if they truly were equal to humans and they're focused on those deaths, crying as if they saw a baby human killed, but then after they don't care about all of the animals that are dying in the wild. So it just shows that they don't really think that they're animals. Then you can just turn it around and say, well, then if humans are just animals, why do we have a different moral set of morals compared to animals? Well, I don't think animals have any morals. We just say that's the animal instinct. So if they want to put humans and animals on the same thing, then you could just say, well, then why can't I act like a freaking animal? And then you can look at all the weird stuff that animals do and say, is that morally wrong or right? And most people will say, well, morality doesn't really apply to animals, and then you can just come back and say, well, then if I'm an animal, I'm going to act like the other animals. And so they don't really have any, in my opinion, a logical argument. If you go straight to their worldview, like if you go more to their worldview, then I think that they're philosophically they're at a disadvantage. I may be wrong, but
Well, no, there's nothing intellectually honest about the vegan philosophy. And they'll, here they are saying, if we were talking about using human skin, because what they want to do is they want to equate animals with humans, right? This is how low they're stooping. And in my opinion, I don't want to like demonize animals or reduce their godliness, because all animals were created by God, right? All species, regardless of whether you're an evolutionist or you're an atheist or you're agnostic or you're very religious, the animals are part of creation. And whether or not you believe that God created everything or random evolution created everything, if the animals are on the same level as all human beings, then as a vegan, you would have to also include all of these animals that are killed not just by pesticides, but straight up shooting them in the face, shooting them in the ass, shooting them in the gut, shooting them in the back. Here we've got crow shooting over crop protection, crow shooting. Okay. And here we've got crop protection on rapeseed, right? Where would the vegan cult be without rapeseed? Crop protection, more crop protection, pigeon and crow shooting, rook shooting, crop protection. So what would happen if the vegans took that same dishonest approach to saying, well, what if we were talking about human leather? What if we were talking about human skin, creating leather from human skin? When that would be a completely different debate, wouldn't it? Well, guess what, vegan? What if we were talking about human shooting for crop protection? What if we were talking about human shooting for using decoy humans for crop protection, or shooting humans for crop protection over drilled barley, or human shooting crop protection, or human shooting crop protection, or human shooting over decoys for crop protection, or decoying humans over rape and stalking the first human of the season. Crop protection.
Did you just put into YouTube crop protection, or did you add other stuff?
Crop protection shooting.
That's it. Okay, I'll check it out.
Those three words. Put in the YouTube search bar. Put the three words crop protection shooting, and you'll see that all of a sudden this analogy that vegans want to use, whereas what if these were humans? All of that goes straight out the door. They don't care about any of these pigeon shootings. What is a pigeon? A pigeon is a dove. A pigeon is a pigeon is when you want to demonize a bird that's a dove, you call it a pigeon, because no one loves pigeons. Everyone loves doves. But what are pigeons? They're doves. And do vegans care about doves? No, they don't care about doves. They don't care about all of these animals that are shot. If they did, you would see them standing up, trying to prevent, just like they do with they stand in front of the trucks that are entering the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
They put themselves in harm's way just to stop these 18-wheelers that are coming in with pigs and cows and sheep into slaughterhouses. But have you ever seen one vegan standing in front of a gunman that's getting ready to shoot dove over cover crops or over wheat or over
The pesticide,
It's one
stopping
of
the.
it goes on and on and on. We have all of this crop protection shooting going on, where
Mm.
these animals that vegans want to equate with humans, they don't care about these whenever it's to protect the vegan menu. And this is, you can call it hypocrisy. I think see, Nick from Nutrivore would try to hedge me into calling it hypocrisy. I think it's
Mhm.
much more sinister than that. I think it's much more misanthropic in nature.
Mm-hmm. What's that one? There was one that said, "Meet the man who shoots birds all day over a toxic pit," or something. It's okay. It was the last screen you had, but it's okay.
Well, I can pull that up real quick. Meet the man who shoots at birds all day to keep them off a toxic pit.
I don't think that's crop protection, but I'm just curious. I was like, what's the toxic pit?
If migrating species land on the Berkeley pit for more than a few hours, they get cooked from the inside out.
Jeez.
So what he's probably doing is he's shooting at them, probably using his gun as a sound cannon to scare them away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You,
doesn't
you would
matter
think
whether
you would think it'd be more effective if there was just a cannon sound that went off every 5 to 10 minutes or something, you know?
well they do have sound cannons that harass live wildlife.
Yeah.
But it is harassment. Let me show you something real quick.
Sure. I got 5 minutes and I'll have to go because it's the end of my shift.
Okay.
I got 5 minutes.
Well, I don't see that I've got it pulled up right now, but let's see.
What were you looking for exactly?
Well, some of the so-called humane crop protection measures are not actually humane.
Okay.
But the point is that let me see if I can. It was someone that was in my comment section on my channel had been arguing with a vegan, and the vegan was saying, well, the measures that we're taking are to protect our crops. So we're killing animals, yes, but we're protecting our food source, and we have to do that. So that's okay. However, from the animal's perspective, what you've done is you've gone in and you've destroyed their habitat, you've destroyed their home, you've killed them or driven them away, and then you've planted all of these monocrops, and these monocrops are food for people. They're intended for humans. However, all of those wild animals that were driven away, they also consider that a food source, or many of them do. And so then they're drawn back to their former home. And what you do, what the vegans are supporting is a system that goes out and kills those animals when they return to their home to eat. And so what they do is they either poison them or they shoot them in the face, shoot them in the belly, or poison them with rodenticides that killed them slowly over weeks, bleeding to death internally. And so this person said in my comment section said, so you're basically you're destroying their home, you're driving them away from their home, and then when they come back home, you're murdering them. And so the inconsistency in your philosophy allows you to destroy the homes of animals and then kill them, murder them when they come back home, and then declare yourself in defense of property. And so this is part of the insanity of veganism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. All right, JD, I'm gonna have to leave you go. My shift's over. I'll listen to the rest of it while I'm driving.
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and close out here. We're going to continue.
You didn't want to do
tomorrow.
it too long, right? I find like an hour and a half is pretty good, you know?
Yeah, I just want to kind of take this in bite-sized portions. We're going to go through the entire video. We're going to show just how intellectually dishonest veganism is, and expose this method of this entire we're reasonable vegans when really it's a shtick. They're not willing to actually address the things that I'm trying to bring to the table for them to look at. They won't look at it. And I've tried again and again and again, and they continue to be rude and just completely ignore me. And so what they're going to get is they're going to get exposed. And so I'm going to be, I did that today, did it a day before yesterday. We'll try again either tomorrow or the next day, but we're going to get through that entire video and we're going to show exactly how morally bankrupt veganism is. Yeah.
JD, how far are you on the original video that you're commenting on? Because usually I'll watch it before so I can kind of, have stuff to say about it already. But how much are you?
We're 8 minutes and 40 seconds through the original video that was trying to debunk me.
Yeah. Okay. So give me a heads up if for the next part there, and I'll say if I can come on, I'll come on.
Okay. Thanks for coming on, Jason. Everyone go look at Jason John Schwartz's channel. He's got some good content there for you to see as well.
All right. See you guys. See you, JD.
All right. Bye. And thank you all for showing up today. I hope that you got something out of this, and we'll see you